Imagine you borrowed $15,000 at 7% interest. So you borrowed $15,000 at 7% interest. Create a table showing the value of your loan after 6 years. Okay, so we want to know how much my loan will be after 6 years. After you've created the table, create a graph and identify your X and Y intercepts. Use the loan balance after 6 years to determine your monthly payments. Okay, so we'll come back to part A. Right now we're going to just focus here. So imagine you borrowed $15,000 at 7% interest. So right away, I'm going to go ahead and take my $15,000 and my 7% interest. Remember, 7% is 0.07. Interest means you add 1 to it, so I can do 1.07. Then you can go ahead and multiply that interest rate times your 15,000. 1.07 times 15,000. When you multiply those together, you do get 16,050. So this would be your interest rate after 1 year, and they want to know 6. So we're just going to go ahead and repeat that process. I'm going to go ahead and start putting it on a table already. So this is going to be my years, and this is my loan. So remember your initial value or your original loan, which ours was 15,000. That's technically year 0. And then our first year was after we multiplied our interest, so 16,050. And then to get our second year, we're going to multiply this 16,050 times our interest rate. So 16,050 times 1.07. You guys can go ahead and do all your work on the side. You can do it on your calculator. It doesn't matter. When we multiply these together, we do get 17,173.5 or 50 cents. I wrote it over here because that's the loan balance after 2 years. Now to get the loan balance after 3, you take the 17,000 and you multiply it by that interest rate again. You guys can actually go ahead and continue this process and get the loan after all 6 years. So go ahead and continue this on by yourself. Press pause and then don't press play again until you're ready to check your answer. Okay, so if you want to check your table, these are the values that I did get. So after 6 years, that total loan is $22,510.96. Depending on how we round it up here, because I didn't round for a lot of, well, I kept my decimals pretty long for all of them. So we might have slightly different answers. If you have like 22,511 or 12,980, that's totally fine. You know what I mean? So like you can have, okay, so then let's go back to the problem. What did they want us to do here? Imagine you borrowed the loan, create a table showing the value of the loan after 6 years. Perfect. Again, what we were doing, we just kept multiplying times 0.107. If you do want some more help with that, please reach out to me. We just kept multiplying times 1.07 until we got after 6 years. Okay, so create a table showing the value after 6 years. After you've created a table, create a graph and identify your intercepts. So we're going to go ahead and graph this. So I'm going to go ahead and draw in my axes. Oops, that was not straight. Make sure you label your axes as well. So I'm labeling the X, the Y, and then create that scale for me so I know what it is you are counting by. Don't just draw the little lines. So X and Y. Looking at my table, we're going to let X represent the years and Y the loan. So remember, X is usually a time. So if we're talking about years or months, seconds, hours, that type of thing. Y is our total, and then whatever it is we're talking about. In this situation, we're talking about money, and it's about our loan. So Y represents our total loan. Looking at my Y values, they do get pretty large. So I'm going to start at 15,000 and then count up by 1,000 after that. That should give me enough room. Oops. So 15,000, and then you can keep going there. And on my x-axis, I'm just going to count by ones. Getting really sloppy here. Okay, if you do need more time to create your graph, feel free to press pause. I kind of rushed it here at the end. this is 23. Okay, while you guys are actually creating that, I want to quickly talk about your test. So for your test, you can either take a picture of all of your work and post that picture underneath the question. And if you need to post multiple pictures, that's completely fine. Or you can print the document out and then write directly on it, and then scan it back to me, whichever way is easier for you guys. I just do want all of your work for your test, not just the answers. Okay, let's go ahead and graph. So what we're doing here, we're gonna go ahead and graph this table. Remember our table, these are all points. So 0, 15,000 is just 0, comma, 15,000. Same with 1, comma, 16,050, and so forth. So we're just gonna go ahead and plot those points. So over 0 up 15,000 is right on my y-intercept. Make sure you label your points. I'm gonna just put 15K. K stands for 1,000. This is a little informal, and you don't want to do that if you're taking an official state test, but for my test, it's totally fine. So I'm gonna go over 1 up 1650 is just gonna be just above that. Over 1 up 16,050. And I'm gonna just keep plotting my points there. So go ahead and continue to plot. I'm not gonna keep labeling mine because it's a little time consuming, but you guys please continue to label. So 318. I'll label this one, I feel bad. 661. And again, we technically don't have to plot every single point. Like you see, I'm skipping the 5 here because I know where it's gonna fall. It's gonna continue falling in this same general pattern. So I just wanna go ahead and get to the end. Okay. If you do need more time plotting, feel free to pause the video. And then we do want to connect these. I know this seems like it's a straight line, but remember straight lines are linear equations, and our linear equations don't have any exponents, whereas we had exponents here. So this is technically not a completely straight line. I know it completely looks like it is, but it actually has a little bit more of a curve to it. Okay, and then that would be our graph we created there. Let's go ahead and go back up to the problem. If you need more time, please press pause. But for now, I'm gonna go back to the problem and see where we're at here. So create a table, we did that. After you create the table, create the graph, check, identify your X and Y intercepts. Okay, so my X and Y intercepts, remember, that's where your graph hits each of the axes. So my X intercept is gonna be where my graph touches the X axis. My X axis is this horizontal axis here. My red graph never touches that axis, so I'm going to put none. We do not have an x-intercept in this situation. And then going for my y-intercept, your y-intercept is where your graph touches the y-axis, which is my vertical line here. So my graph, that red graph, touches the y-axis right at this point, which is 0, 15,000. Which again was that initial value of the loan. So your y-intercept should always be your initial value. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and go back up, see what else we answered. So we created the graph, we identified your intercepts. Now we're on to this last portion. I'm actually gonna go ahead and paste this down here. For your guys' test, I believe this is the exceeds mastery portion. So after you've use that loan balance after 6 years to determine your monthly payments for 6 years. So we talked about this right before we went on break. I first need my loan balance of 6 years. I want to figure out how much this is. So we said our loan balance was $22,510, $22,510, and technically 96 cents. So remember, our loan, little recap, sorry. Our loan was originally $15,000. We were charged, I believe it was 7% interest. So after 6 years, this loan is going to be $22,510 after 6 years. So we can determine our monthly payments for 6 years. So what I want to do is I want to just say, okay, just take this 22,510 and you're going to go ahead and divide it by 6 because that represents the 6 years. So when you take that number and you divide it, let's see what we get. I got $3,751.83. Again, I'm rounding there. So that means your total loan for 6 years, you divided it by the 6 years. So that means this is how much you would pay each year. Each year you're paying $3,751. But no one actually pays their loans like that. Everyone pays their loans in monthly payments. So if that's how much I pay each year, to find out how I'm going to pay each month, I'm going to go ahead and divide it by 12 cents. Again, I'm rounding there. So that means your total loan for 6 years, you divided it by the 6 years. So that means this is how much you would pay each year. Each year you're paying $3,751. But no one actually pays their loans like that. Everyone pays their loans in monthly payments. So if that's how much I pay each year, to find out how I'm going to pay each month, I'm going to go ahead and divide it by 12. And you could have just divided by 60 because 12 times 6 is 60, and that would get you straight to the answer, but this works as well. So let's divide by 12, and we have 312.65. So this would be your monthly payments. Monthly payment. We could have also taken this total loan, the $22,000, and just divided it by 72 because the 6 years times the 12 months, 6 times 12 is 72, and when you divide those, you get that same answer of 312. I wouldn't necessarily remember this way, like the way my brain thinks of it. I think, okay, break it up by years, then break it up by months. But either way works. You can just combine it into one step there.